Estate Agency X, the UK's #1 estate agency podcast discussing the future of estate agency, entrepreneurship and business. Hosts Mark Burgess and Rob Brady. So on this episode of Estate Agency X, I've got Megan, 18. We discuss her soon-to-be role as Property Mark ARLA president. So we cover the career that Megan's gone through, where she started an agency in an independent corporate days, the difference between her sales role and her lettings role, how she actually managed to get into TikTok and become sort of an influencer in TikTok on lettings. So we cover a wide range of things on this one. So I hope you enjoy this episode. So Megan, welcome to the show.
Having me.
All the way from Reading, so not too far. I still call it the north, but it seems like you've had a travel in a hot day today we've had today. So thanks for your efforts in getting here. So for anyone listening out there who's probably lived under a rock, because you seem to be everywhere, just a bit of background on who Megan is and what arrived you into estate agency today.
So I'm Megan, 18. I am the head of development for a company called Home Finders in Swindon. So we're sort of the west. And then I'm about to also be the president of ARLA Property Mark, which is like the sort of regulatory body for letting agents, I guess.
Nice and simple. No?
Nice and simple, yeah. Oh, and how I got into it, I think you'll probably hear a lot. It's a total fluke.
So, okay. So I always like to lead with the first question. What was the first day of estate agency like for you? Or letting agency, estate agency?
So I've always done both. So everyone always associates me with lettings, but actually I've always done both. I'm just as qualified in estate agency as I am in lettings, done exactly the same amount of time. So my first day was a administrator. So I basically got a job between ski seasons. I was working as a ski and snowboard instructor.
Nice.
And I came back and I just needed like just a temporary job. My mum was an estate agent and she was like, oh, it's a shame you can't type. And I was like, I'm a millennial. Of course I can type.
Yeah.
I was like, I spend my day on MySpace. Like,
yeah.
What do you need? And basically somebody in her office was going on long-term sick. They were going through cancer treatment. So I basically went and covered her job for like 5 or 6 months, typing property details, ordering HIP reports. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
Back in the day. So yeah, so that was literally my job. I was just like admin, really.
So it sounds like pretty much most estate agencies' entries in like accidental. We actually had someone that we interviewed as one of our clients. Actually, he was a ski instructor.
Oh, really?
And I think it was his mum's business, and he ended up deciding to work in it, and then sort of fell into it and then carried on. And it's been in it for like decades now. Okay, so what was that agency like, working for that agency?
It is a lovely agency. So it's a company called Farmer and Dyer, who are local to me in Reading, in this nice little part of Reading called Caversham, which is where I live. And it's, you know, it's very middle class. It's lovely. It's really pretty. And they were a small independent business that had just started their lettings book. So I worked with them for about 6 months, went off, came back and started a job with Chancellors as a property manager. Yeah. And then about 9 months in, Farmer and Dyer rang me back and went, do you want to come be our junior negotiator? And I was like, yes, I do. I was like, I don't want to be in property management. 9 months was enough for me. So I went back, took a massive pay cut because obviously you earn nothing as a junior negotiator, and started again there. So it's a really lovely company. I'm still really close with the people who own it.
Yeah.
And they're super proud, and they often chase after me on the school run because our kids go to school together and go, oh, it's the most famous letting agent in the country. And I'm like, stop.
So you how long were you there for then? Like, so okay, what was that journey like? So you went from, like, it sounded like you entered into the agency into the shit roles that people don't tend to like administration and property management. I mean, what a baptism of fire as the second entry into agency lettings, especially being a property manager.
Yeah.
And then you went from that to what you would expect that everyone thinks that happens in estate agencies. You're driving around in a nice BMW, show people through like $1 million mansions, and then that's like you're adding fortune them. So what was that how you went as obviously a junior negotiator. So what was that the roles that you did within that? What was your
So when you're in a small business like that, you tend to get stuck in with everything, don't you? So, you know, 1 minute you're doing viewings, then you're doing a bit of property management. You know, there's not necessarily that clear definition of roles. So for me, it was a great time to really grow all the different skill sets. I actually learned so much in property management. Like, it was like a crash course in like legislation. And it was there I then decided, you know what, I want to get qualified and do all that stuff. So I started all that when I was a junior negotiator. I think the thing is with those roles is I actually really loved them, because for me, they were kind of, especially administration, felt quite low pressure at the time. But I think it was just because I lived in this little bubble. Certainly didn't drive a BMW. I had a little Kia Picanto, which I actually took the bumper off of once, doing a terrible job of reversing off a driveway. But really, I was that really stereotypical junior neg. I made all the tea, I did all the leaflets, and like it's a completely different like process now for people. But I literally just grafted all the way through, and then it reached a point where actually I needed, because my mum worked there at the weekends, I needed my own
Thing,
path.
yeah.
So at that point, it felt, I think it was about 5 or 6 years. I thought, right, now it's time. I don't want to be, you know, someone's daughter. I want to go and do this off my own back now, and moved into a kind of corporate role with a company called Davis Tate, which were part of LSLI.
Yeah. And then so, because obviously, like, what did you learn even from when you're at Chancellor's into that independent? Was there anything that you fluttering between the two, and then move into a corporate? That seems quite, because a lot of people I tend to find I go for corporate and go into independent, stay into independent, and go back to corporate. So going from like maybe the smaller agency, the smaller independent, that niche market, you have a particular clientele, and then moving into like a large corporate machine. How is that experience going for you?
I actually feel really lucky to have spent a huge amount of time in both. Because I'm somebody that likes to be creative, which I think plays to that independent model. I think I'm somebody that likes structure as well. And so corporate model really suits me in that respect. So one thing that I struggle with after being in corporate life at the second time was trying to go to businesses that took compliance and took legislation as seriously, or, you know, and had the procedures in place. So I ended up carving out roles for myself where I basically would go into businesses and almost be the corporate voice in the independent and put it on that track. So for me, I learned loads from corporate life. I do not regret spending time. I mean, half my career was in corporate.
And obviously, where you said you were starting to have that route of going, actually, I want to have some qualification behind it. There was probably a part of that development in yourself, obviously, then helped those independents, because, like, you know, you were behind that knowledge that they might have not necessarily had, and just keep doing it this way, Letton's way. And you're going like, no, actually, like, this is.
But it was funny. I used to come back and they'd be like, "Can you stop? Because we know you've just been on a course, but, you know, can you just like chill out?" But it was funny because actually I sat with a colleague, Calvin, who I was still quite close with, and we sat together in that first course, and it went round the room, and it was all these quite fancy people in their fancy suits, and they were like, "Oh, I want this and I want that," and And they got to us and they said, "What do you want to get out of that today?" And we were like, "We're going to stop winging it. We want to know what we're doing properly. We want to do this correctly. We want to do it by the law." And everyone looked at us like, "Oh God, like commoners." But actually, it's totally true. We wanted to make sure that we were doing the right thing, and actually being able to do it with a bit of personality, I think, was important too.
And so that second time back into corporate, was that back into a lettings role?
So no, I did dual. So every business I worked for up until the last 3 years, I've done sales and letting.
Wow.
Full time. So I literally did the role side by side. So I never felt I had a specialism. And I think that a lot of people associate me with lettings because of my ARLA and property marks, because that was role was there.
In a nutshell.
So that's where that all came from. But people don't tend to ask as many questions about house buying. Lettings has my heart though, because I just love it.
But I think, like, so like from my background, I came from sales and went to lettings and then went back into both. And I always felt like there's so many agents I still speak to now, and even agents that like were, you know, even in the office or even in competitors or people I used to, you know, down the street talk to, and they're either going to be sales or lettings, and there was no merge. It was like you're either lettings or you're sales, and there's even like that office politics around who does the better out of the two. But I always feel like developing in your role into the dual role, you always had an upper edge on agents out there. Like, you know, you talk to a landlord, then I'm just telling a landlord about the rents. how much you get and the property in mind. You can tell them whether like they're actually overpaying on the value of that home and what they should be buying and what they shouldn't be buying. And there was always that missed by people not doing it. I was just thinking like, wow, you haven't got this knowledge that the client needs, and you're relying on another team member to deliver it in the same way. So it's really good to hear that you had both sides to it. And obviously, I don't know, it's the same here. Like, as much as my first part of the career was in agency, getting into lettings, I don't know what it is, but I don't know, I've always had a softer spot for that part to it. I think it's that long-term relationship you build out, whereas sometimes a estate agency is great. You have this really intense relationship and then you stop and then you keep in touch with them. I mean, most agents say they keep in touch with them, but most of the time it's bullshit. But then with lettings, like, you do have those longer relationships. You get to know those tenants, you get to know those landlords. Those landlords come in and they chat to you, and depending on the relationship you have with those landlords, like, I used to go out a lot of the time with dinners and bunches and sort of stuff.
And like when they, it sounds awful, but like funerals, when they die, you go, but not because you have to, but because actually you've had a relationship with that person all that time. I remember when I had my son and I was too scared to tell them that I was having a baby because I didn't dare take time off work.
Yeah.
And I waited as long as possible until I was in Tesco's one Saturday and I bumped into a landlord that had this massive bump, and they looked at me and were like, "Is there something you want to say?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to be off in a few weeks."
About 2 weeks' time.
And literally,
months.
I literally waited till the week before I finished to tell all my landlords so they didn't get worried.
It's hard, isn't it? Really hard. We had those situations in the office where we had property managers in that position, and like, you want to tell them, but at the same time you don't want them to panic. And then so secretly behind the scenes you're prepping everything. Yeah. Just then to say, like, we've got it all sorted. This was happening. So when you're in that sort of that corporate role, you said you had half and half in corporate. So how long were you in that job for? So obviously 3 years ago things have changed.
So basically I was with that corporate then for like another 7 years.
Wow.
And then through lockdown, we everything shut down. I did not get furloughed. I was left to keep the business going.
All the shit.
I was the only person in front end. It were 14 officers left, sales and lettings. Everybody else was directors, property management, accounts, keeping that side of it. And there was one conversation they said to me, well, if we don't make any money, your colleagues can't come back. And so I then suddenly went, God, I've got the weight of all of my friends, families, mortgages, everything. At that point, we didn't really understand what furlough was. It felt a bit like a death sentence for a lot of people. People thought, that's it, I'm going to lose my job. So I felt really honoured that I didn't go in that position. Very quickly realised that actually they were having a great time in furlough.
They were sipping roses.
Absolutely. I was saying, what are you up to? Like, oh, I've learned Spanish. I'm like, great. I'm so happy for you. And they actually earned more money in furlough than I did working, and I worked every day for months. And when they brought back then the offices, we obviously opened them slowly, and I think I got 2 people back with me at the time, and it was chaos, but it was magical because I had somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
And as it got longer and longer, obviously they started drip feeding people back. I suddenly was going, I'm really struggling now. I am burnt out to an absolute crisp. I am struggling. Like, this isn't okay. And I kept saying that I really need some time now. Now you've got everybody back. Now let me have a rest because I'm not doing so good. And they kept pushing me and pushing me and pushing me until one day I just absolutely crumbled. And my doctor signed me off for a month and I was out. And so I went back to the business thinking that would be okay. And very quickly I was put back into that very exposed role where there was no support. And I just thought, I can't do this.
Especially because how old was Dexter at the time?
So he was 2.
Yeah, wow. So it was like, 100% get.
He was potty training whilst I was like juggling. I was like naked child running around. At the same time, I took my ARLA role on as well.
Wow.
So it was a really intense time. And for me, it was a case of I kind of fallen out of love with that, because suddenly I realised that corporate life was about being a number. Yeah. And that wasn't a part of it that I loved. So I sort of sat on it for a while. And there was another local business, local people called Haslam's, who are massive. They were the biggest market leaders in Reading by a landslide. Recently just sold Foxtons. and they had been trying to get me for a while. And I just sort of rang up, went, "Do you want me?" And they went, "Yeah." I went, "Okay, well, these are my terms," and so then the wheels went in motion there, really.
Wow. Yeah, because I think that you get to the point that recognizing that burnout is a key part. I like someone who'd worked. I worked through COVID as well, and like everyone else, like you look back now, and everyone's like, thinks like, I remember those COVID days where like you could just do anything, and like my partner Kel talks about it as being a teacher. She was off, and I was like, I don't remember any of that.
No.
And and obviously that it's recognizing that burnout was a key part to it. So, you changed roles.
Yeah.
What did you immediately feel different in that new role?
I think I went from being an integral cog in the machine to suddenly being somebody that was making decisions.
Yeah.
And that was quite a big change for me because, when you work in not only corporate, but like LSLI is a big beast.
Yeah.
So, you had your structure in your business, and you had the LSLI structure and then the LSL structure. So trying to get change or ideas done was virtually impossible. There was amazing things about it, but and I got the best training in the world from it. But if I had an idea, we'd be talking months down the line, and suddenly I was in a position where they go, "Well, what do you think? Should we do this?" And I'm going, "Oh God, okay, this is
you're turning around." Shit, there's no one else actually there to answer.
I know, and I remember the first time I signed a contract and thinking, like, "Am I allowed to do this? Like, is this okay?" So it went from being like just like a body in the business to suddenly making big decisions in a business, and it was quite a clear brief. There was no secret that behind the scenes that they wanted to gear up to sell, and so we were getting everything in shape. Yeah, absolutely, and we did that, and we did it beautifully. At the same time, there was an acquisition, so they bought another business nearby, so we had all of that fun to do. So it was a really great time. I just didn't. It wasn't a long term. It was like I sort of came in, I did it, and then at the end, sort of, they were like, "Right, so do you want to go run that branch?" And I was like, "No, not really."
And was it with the decisions you were making? Was they still sales and lettings based decisions?
That was the first time that it was more lettings.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to dabble too much in sales. We did a little,
Yeah.
but the sales department, to be fair, didn't really need a huge amount. It was more like enhancements. And that was actually what was really interesting. I wasn't going into a business that was suffering. I was going into a really good business.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult to make good business is amazing, like even better. It's much easier when they're on the floor because anything you do will be an improvement.
Yeah.
So that was quite hard way to work out that, and there was an amazing team there of people that were working on it, and I feel really proud of what we did there and how amazing they've done, and all the money they made from Foxtons buying it, so they did really well. And then so then I went back on the road and ended up at location in Hackney, and we came in with a goal in mind, and then we decided just to change a few things along the way, and then again we sort of move from there, really.
And throughout all of this, one of the things I wanted to cover was like your TikTok and sort of your part of, obviously you spoke at Property Mark Trust, the privilege of watching you speak there, and you talked about obviously the role of like video and having identity with regards to marketing and stuff like that. So many people are scared to come out of their nutshell.
Yeah.
And like and expose themselves to the world. So how did like your background, obviously you work for smaller independents and corporates, so you didn't really have no one ever come to you and said, right, we're going to do it this way. You had that inspiring person that you go into an estate agency and they're already doing it, and you learn that knowledge. So what whilst you were doing all of this, and then you had this other sideline, which was like your own identity coming through, your own fame, when did that start? How did that even come through? Have you always been theatrical, or like to stand on stage?
Yeah.
Or the centre of attention?
I was a drama theatre kid.
Okay, so and it makes sense.
Yeah, drama and theatre studies. But actually I really, really hate being centre of attention, which really throws people. So like being on stage really freaks me out.
Okay, 100% good.
And like, so I have no issue being on camera, but put me on stage and it's like,
yeah.
So I like to think I'm very good in like a supportive role. But yeah, that big limelight moment is a lot.
Yeah.
So the video thing was actually off the back of my ARLA role. So I basically got this regional role, and I said, okay, so what what's my job? And they were like, right, well, your job is to communicate with the members in your region. I went, great, give me their details. And they went, we can't because of GDPR. And I went, right, well, how do I communicate with my members then? And so I started posting on LinkedIn, and then what I would do is I would stalk the members that communicated and add them, and slowly like start to build my little group of people. And then we sat on a course that somebody put on for us, just like a evening with a glass of wine, talking about social media. And at that point, I'd already sort of established myself as a bit of a LinkedIn person.
Yeah.
And they went, well, the big one's going to be TikTok. Like, nobody's doing it yet. Like, nobody's brave enough. And the next morning I wake up and went, fuck it, I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah.
And I literally, it was a snap decision. And they were right, nobody was on there. And I recorded a video. It was like the 5 things we look at when we come to value your property. And it was like, me with the boiler. It was really cheesy. And it did really well. And then somebody asked the question on there about pets, which I responded to. And when I responded to it, it just like exploded. And then suddenly everyone was asking questions, which just fed me content. And I just kept responding. And because I was the first one, that's why people always ask me about it, because I was the one that sort of broke that barrier between agents being like, oh,
but also doing it in a more professional way. Like I see some agents in that era when that TikTok started to come a bit more known. You'd get on there and they'd do these stupid fucking trends, and then but there's no. But it might be fun, but like, what's the value in that? Like, whereas I met you via that, and getting to know you via that. We met obviously on a digital front. I feel like I know you a lot, even though we've met twice now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I feel like we've known each other forever.
But so like, when I watched those videos and I thought, oh, actually, it's really good. Actually, someone getting on there and actually responding back to it, because you know it well enough, and like me being in that letting side to it, loads of people want advice out there, and I think sometimes we're quite forgetful that if you've been in the industry 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you think everyone knows it. You're so common to think that like everyone knows what happens on a market appraisal. It's like no one knows that, because they just maybe sold their house once.
Yeah.
Or they might have just been a brand new landlord and wondering like, what do I need to do to it?
Yeah.
So I started following you on that part, and that's what I was always intrigued, like, from someone who doesn't. Was it someone who'd like just thought, do you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to do videos and I don't care what people think? How did you take to the reaction of like people liking and sharing and commenting and stuff like that?
It's funny. Going back to the like center of attention.
Yeah, that bit.
I still find it really weird.
Yeah.
And like people will come up to me at conferences and be like, "Oh, I follow you," and I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that." And like people say to me like, "Why do you apologize?" I'm like, "I don't know, because I don't know what else to say to people."
Yeah.
So it is like a really weird thing, but it has opened so many doors for me. Like literally recently, I haven't even posted about it yet, but I got approached by the Ministry of Housing to be one of the leading independent voices of CRS for the Renters Reform Bill. So now suddenly working really closely with them is an opportunity I just never would have got before. And they want to work with people that have got real voices, that aren't just spouting stuff for clickbait. And it's actually, when people say to me, "Oh, I only got 200 views," I'm like, well, if you had 200 people in the room with you, you'd be delighted if they were listening to you. So it's really, people need to just chill out with it.
There was actually, I think it was like a relationship coach I saw on one of his programs, and he said he did something on YouTube and he only posted a couple of videos, and one post got like 12 views, and one of the views was Oprah Winfrey.
Oh wow!
And then she got in touch with him and said, "Do you want to come on my show?" And now he coaches relationship advice to celebrities around the world.
Wow!
And it all came off that one video.
Yeah, Oprah, if you're watching, me and Brooke are available.
It's just crazy. Like, it's a great point. Especially, it's nice to hear that. Especially when you've got the exposure you've reached on having some of your videos on TikTok, to then saying like, just remember, like 200 views is actually still 200 views of people, 200 people in a room. You'd be, well,
if you had a landlord evening and you invited all these people, you'd be like, oh my God, 200 people turned up.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So, ARLA.
Yeah.
Property Mark. Like, I used to be a former ARLA member. I was level 3 qualified. And then obviously when I left agency.
Still there in your heart.
I've got a certificate, but I'm not, I don't know why I'd be still a member if I'm working as a supplier. So I learned a lot. I mean, we used to use a lot with Property Mark ARLA or it was originally under just Property Mark for a lot of legislation advice, contracts. Dutton Gregory, I think we had at the time. They were like absolutely amazing when it came to legislation and advice. Didn't necessarily go to any conferences, but we just had it more as like a regulatory body.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'd find frustrating when you've got other agents up and down the road with no qualifications, and then like you'd land a landlord to buy the property, and you go, "Where's the electrical certificate?" He's like, "I ain't got an electrical certificate," and it's like a bit of a frustrating part. So you obviously got your qualification, level 3, level 4. Was that quite quickly straight afterwards?
No,
it's quite different between the two.
It's hugely different. So I did my level 3 in lettings when I was about 23. And then when I was at like first corporate or second corporate gig, technically, there was one senior negotiator position left in our branch, and we worked dual across the both. And one guy was more sales and I was kind of a bit more lettings. And I thought, we're not going to turn this into a competition because there is no way he is getting that job over me. So I went and collected the sales books and I had it all completed within 2 weeks. I was like, not having that, not messing around. And then I flirted with the idea of doing a level 4, which is the equivalent of thinking about a year and a half of a degree. It's intense. And I like really, really contemplated it and eventually decided to do it. And then found out I was pregnant literally almost immediately after my first exam because I threw up in the bin in the exam hall and thought, oh, it's not quite right. And so then I ended up doing a 2-year course in 9 months because I wanted to get it done.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was intense. I was like studying birthing techniques whilst different grounds for possession. So it was a really intense time. But like for me,
just different type of eviction process.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, Section 21, somebody, it's time to get out. It was almost like a mental test for me because I was like, I'm not going to have my body going through pregnancy change what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And of course it changes what you want to do. I was like throwing up out like 5 times a day through my pregnancy. It was horrendous.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. I almost did it, but my final exam was booked. He came early, so I had to move my last exam. So I think I finished it about 3 months after he was born.
Still though, like even 3 months in, but after birthing a child and sleepless nights.
I mean, you had 2, so
Yeah,
it's a bit easier.
Yeah, I understand that. But no, my partner went through exactly the same thing. She's about to be newly qualified as a therapist, counsellor, so she's been there 5 years. Yeah, we've got 3. They just turned 3. So when she was going into a level 3/4, she was in that 100%, and the commitment for that, especially doing a level 3 and then the step up to a level 4, it's not like it's just a intense 1-week course extra. Fair play to you to be able to do that whilst, getting yourself ready to actually give birth to a child at the same time. Especially hormones, sleepless nights, getting just naturally changes.
Maybe got a stubborn attitude and do.
Yeah. And where did that come from?
My mum.
Yeah.
100%. My mum, so a single mum.
Yeah.
And so she raised us all. And so watching her as an estate agent in the 90s, running branches, I didn't realise that women didn't do these things.
Yeah.
So it was only really in the last 5 years that I realised that actually
what a super mum you've got.
Didn't happen. Yeah. And there was women that didn't do that. So for me growing up, there was no boundaries. And then we lost her. It will be 10 years next year. And suddenly it was like dawned on me, like actually she was like Superwoman, and like we just thought it was totally normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But stubborn as.
Yeah. So right. So you've done the level. You're 3 months post child. You've done your level 4. You start obviously going to the process of becoming a regional representative of ARLA. Why did you want to do that instead of just staying a member? Like what again? I always like with these episodes to get to the heart of really the individual.
Yeah.
And some people will just take membership. Some people, I think, grandfathering if it's still
no.
So yeah, like we had our agency had sort of grandfathering taking place. Where I wanted to get qualified. I wanted to just be that under that band of like fake legislation. I know what I'm doing, but I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So why did you want to get more involved with Property Mark and ARLA? Like what was the draw for it for you?
It sounds like a proper sales pitch when I say it, but it's not, because I genuinely believe in what we do at Property Mark, and like it's been something that I was passionate about before I joined. For me, didn't go to university. I flirted with the idea of university, chose a life on the mountain instead. And so for me, I didn't have a degree to fall back on. So in a way, I always felt a little bit like inferior to my friends with their fancy degrees and the pictures of them with their caps at their mum's house. And like, I didn't have that.
Yeah.
And I decided that I wanted to be as legitimate as possible.
Yeah.
And so for me, I wanted to be the best at what I could do. And one thing that I've learned through my life is that if I decide that I want to do something, I will do it the best way possible, in my view.
Yeah.
And I will do it to the best of my ability. Like, I don't half-ass anything. And motherhood's been no different. My job's been no different. This is like, once I'm in it, I'm in it.
Yeah.
And for me, I just believe in I remember watching, what was his name from Right Moose? His name's escaped me. David Cox, who was at ARLA, and when we were going through the tenant fee ban, and like he'd hear an update and they'd have a camera on him within like 10 minutes of that update coming up, and he'd all be all flustered, but he'd be there championing. People don't realise that like things like furlough commission only happened off the back of a campaign from Property Mark. Like, people forget what a lot of the things that we've done behind the scenes that we don't necessarily shout about. So now we're starting to learn that we have to start shouting about it a little bit more.
Yeah, because I've always found what's been nice hearing about sort of the role that you're going into, and the roles of like even your predecessors as well. As I always felt, and I'm going to be honest about it, I always felt that when I was involved with it was like an old man's club.
Yeah, I get that.
And I felt like it was a bit like these, I don't know, middle-aged white men, like
all business owners.
And it was like, and it was, everyone was in suits and ties, and it was all very formal. And for someone who didn't really like a estate agency in the way it is, and hated being an estate agent, although I was an estate agent, used to be like shameful. And people used to say like, "What's your career?" And I go, "I work in property." And then they get out and you go, "Property, you got a stage," and they go, "Oh, well, it's not a stage." I'm like, "No, I'm not those that one." So like, as much as I was a part of the membership, because I believed in that same thing, being legitimate. I didn't go off to university. I wanted to have a qualification of some sort to say, actually, yeah, I do know lettings. But then there's always that, I don't know, I didn't really get involved in the conferences purely because it was a bit like old man's club, snooty.
It's really evolved.
And I have seen it, even just the logo, the freshness, who's getting involved. So it's nice to hear, like, I don't know, you wanted to have that that next evolution coming through.
Yeah, I'll let you into a secret, Rob. The reason I decided to go for the presidency was because I was going to be the youngest one they've ever had.
Yeah.
And I wanted that to be a like stick in the ground to say, look, it doesn't matter whether you've got 50 years experience or 5 years experience or whatever it looks like.
Yeah.
Like, your opinions matter and count. And I had this really lovely moment where I knew I'd made the right decision when my nan went to sell her little retirement flat. And it's about 40 minutes down the road from me. She said, "Do you want to sell it?" And I was like, "What?" Over 55.
Yeah, we're talking like no.
Third floor, no lift. Like, I don't know why she bought it. And I said, "Look, I tell you what, let's find you someone local. I'll do a scope. I'll get you 3, and then go." Didn't ring and say who I was, just sort of did it from afar. And I sent her them over, and she was in the middle of evaluation. Apparently, this young girl came up, she must be like 22, 23. And at the end of the evaluation, she goes, "I hope you don't mind me asking, but are you related to Megan 18? And she went, "Yeah, it's my granddaughter." She was like, "Oh, what she's done for women, and I feel like I can do anything, and I want to be a president now." And and I said to my nan, "See, that's why I do it."
100%.
Because for me, I didn't identify with that side. And actually, I had a really lovely guy come up to me at the last conference, which was last week, and say to me, like, exactly what you said. Like, I've been a member forever. I didn't really get it, and now I get it.
Yeah.
Like, now I feel a part of something. And I'm really proud of that, because I feel like I'm a big part of that change. And I think bringing me in was a start of that change. And now, you know, we've got a really good mix. Like, the board is like almost 50-50 women, and that's a voted for board by our membership.
Nice.
So the roles come up every 4 years, so it's not as easy just to like wipe it out and start fresh.
Yeah.
The board's full of amazing women who are in amazing positions within the business, and I think that's a really big thing too. But
what's nice about what I found with you as well is that no disrespect on any of your career. Sometimes you get people into the roles we're in there that they are senior roles within large organisations, and they're put in there. And almost what I've loved about you becoming that next line is you're actually championing the true independent of what the property mark ARLA actually means to be a part of.
Yeah.
Going back to the roots of when you first got into agency, a small agency brand who needs to understand legislation, have that greater voice, and just don't get left behind. So it's awesome to see that full circle come back, that you now understand those people.
Yeah, oh, totally. And one thing I always say to people is I'm still boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Like, I am in the senior team, but I go out and value properties. You know, I was doing viewings on an auction property last week. It was grim, but I was doing it. You know, I work on a Saturday and I go out and I do viewings to help the team out. We are a boots on the ground kind of business. And for me, that means that when people come and talk to me about their issues, I'm like, totally get it.
Yeah.
Had it, same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, really, it's really good. So your current role now, could you, like, location, you had a flutter with doing some videos of like property developments and stuff like that, and involved in that. So what would you say is your role now within?
So my role's a bit.
I know it's obviously going to probably be a bit like
it's a bit
mixture.
It is a bit of a mixture.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an evolving role. So the business is run by a wonderful lady called Sue, and she has run that whole business. And she just needed, like, I'm essentially like her overflow. So we sat once and I said, oh, someone turned around and said, you're doing brand development. She was like, yes, that's what you're doing. And what I'm doing is I'm working on building our social media. We're sort of reviving our marketing, training, processes in place. I'm currently working, sort of partially responsible now for our sales department, you know, getting that off the ground. I'm just about to launch the Home Finders Academy, which is to train young people to negotiate a position. So literally writing that as we speak. So it's a really different role. I love it because it's so different.
And what are you taking from all that academy role, like for someone out there who, you know, an agency out there, I see a lot of them go, I just can't get the teams anymore. I can't get the beginning staff. No one wants to be an estate agent anymore. Then it's not the job that everyone wants. So what would you say out there for people actually listening? What do you reckon they need to establish in their own businesses to attract the next generation of people coming through?
I think one thing that really irritates me at conferences is the same question gets battered around every conference. So, like, why don't young people want to work as hard as we did? And I'm like, oh, guys, look, well, the world's changed. We are a generation, or they were a generation. I think I sort of straddled the two.
Yeah.
The wear burnout like a pride badge. Like, look, I burn out because I was so good. Like, I'm working at 10 o'clock at night. Wow, look at me. That's lovely. But like, actually, the next generation, they don't want that. They have such a good balance on life that I think we should be listening to them and adjusting. So for me, there's a whole piece in my presidency speech about if we don't adapt our industry to fit that next generation, we are going to lose what makes it special. And there's lots of talk about like AI and what's that going to do for jobs and, you know, all these different changes. Well, if we don't adapt, that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to take our jobs. But if we actually start investing in younger people earlier, but creating a job that people want to do, then maybe it won't become, you know, transactional.
And yeah, because one of the things that we get within, when obviously being a technology company, like things like, you know, first line autoresponder now, like it qualifies a tenant, qualifies a sale. So people go, what am I going to do? And it's like, well, really, like, if you get a lettings lead that comes through and you've got 20 inquiries, can you really spend quality time going for those sets of questions? So what you can do is then now you can look at the people that have done that initial line response and then speak to them and give them a better service. And like, so it takes it away from being those administrative roles that you started an agency, which I know you said you liked, but like when you're doing administration on such a scale, that's where burnout happens, because you're like just burning out doing admin. Whereas the technology replaces it into a new role where the role could be a lot more fun and more rewarding, and you don't have to have 5 negs doing one role. You could have 2 negs, technology doing it, and they get paid more money and they have more fun. And like, so I've only just been to a client the other day and he was saying, I don't know what it is, the team aren't just performing. I said, you just told me you had like the best 3 months ever and you've got a load of money and you've just given them a load of rewards and that lot. I said, but have you had a downtime for a week? because you're telling me like you're moaning after a week that they're a bit relaxed. I was like, it's because they're fucking burnt. So just give them time off. And he was like, but they've earned money. I was like, it's a difference between money and you see me as an individual in a company. You see me as a human being.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that people forget that you don't actually have to pay people more money.
No.
You just need to give them a bit more freedom to do stuff, a bit more freedom to be creative.
Responsibility. Like, ultimately, you've got to put that trust in it. And I actually think that COVID, in a weird way, sort of gave our industry the push that it needed to evolve.
Yeah.
You know, like if I could have had those autoresponders in place by the time COVID happened, I don't think I would have burnt out.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't dealing with those volumes of inquiries coming through and letters.
Yeah.
You literally, we used to shut the phones down at 6 and then we would deal with the offers. Because that was the only time the phones automatically went to like an auto, answering service at 6. And so at that point we could actually call people to give them their offers because we physically couldn't do it. And so like for me, those kind of things free up people to do more meaningful tasks, like speaking to clients, building relationships, doing a bit of proactive maintenance rather than just, your boiler's broken.
Or even just spending time at a property a bit more than 5 minutes because that's the only time you've got.
Yeah.
Or showing someone around a property and spending 20 minutes with them at a viewing and actually really showing them the property and really getting to understand them and thinking, shit, I've got 7 other 8 tasks. I've got to get back to the office and got to get them done before like the day ends.
It's care, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think I feel really lucky that I joined agency just as Rightmove was becoming like a thing, right?
Yeah.
So I learned the skills of not having Rightmove as I became benefiting from Rightmove and all those portals that have come since. So for me, I feel like that's given me a really solid foundation that really understands. And I think that over the years, we sort of lost that skill a little bit.
100%.
And I think that by having good technology in place, it frees us up to be able to do those meaningful tasks because we weren't dealing with those volumes. When I was a junior negotiator, you had flurries.
You had people walking in the office. And they were like the registrations of this, you had people phoning up, but you would register their details and then you'd send them out something and there wouldn't be such a... In those days, actually, you were doing more proactive calls out to those people to say, hey, I've got this 3-bedroom property coming on. Are you interested in viewing it?
Yeah. Rather
than chucking on Rightmove and getting bombardment of a load of people who just like to browse it. But like, there's only going to ever be one buyer, one tenant taking a property. That's good.
Having a filing cabinet in your office with all the property details in.
Oh yeah.
And then I'd speak to Rob on the phone. I'd come up and be like, I'm going to post him this one, this one, and this one, because actually my CRM didn't let me email them out.
Yeah, I same era. So I remember those days joining an agency. I worked for Connells and it was like a computer in the back, and that was if you were lucky to touch it.
Oh yeah.
And the rest of it was like your little box and desk.
Our CRM didn't even have a Rightmove feed for letting, so we used to have to manually upload lettings.
Yeah, mental. Two things I want to ask before we go. First one is like go back to your presidency in ARLA. Like how long is it off before you're officially El Presidente?
A week.
A week now. Wow.
Yeah, next week.
And then so what's your so you got a 4-year term?
No, so I've already done 2 years essentially as in the vice president and then president-elect role. So this will be my year, and then that's it.
And what do you hope to achieve in that year?
I think very much what I've sort of been working along the whole way through. So I want to build that foundation for that next generation.
Yeah.
So I want to make it more accessible for people. One thing that I keep harassing our qualifications department for, and I'm sure they love it when I do it, is that the level 4 has changed since I did it. And so it was more of an applied lettings role document before. And now it's more about business ownership. And for me, as somebody that even now is not a business owner and doesn't really want to be, there wouldn't have been a level 4 for me that would have fit. And so I feel really passionate about having more qualifications for people so that their journeying doesn't have to stop at level 3 if they don't want to be a business owner or not ready to be a business.
Yeah, but understanding like a more detailed, more leadership role in like, going from someone at a level 3 could be as a property manager, very good property manager, very good qualified. But then might have a lettings director. He's a lettings director, but not necessarily the owner.
Yeah.
He wants that next level of understanding of it. Yeah, 100% get that because, especially when it's you said like, you smash that in 9 months and it's like an 18-month course, 2-year course. There's still a wealth of knowledge that if you aren't an owner, it's that, I know, it'd be unwise, I'd see, doing that because all of a sudden the owner's always going to be stuck in that position of trying to run the business still, when you get someone who's a bit more qualified and a bit more understanding, and then take that role, and then another evolution that the property owner could take.
It's also useful. So like when I was at Hasland, we bought a portfolio, and they said, they went, oh my goodness, they're regulated tenancies. I was like,
I know.
We can deal with this. Don't worry about it. Pass it to me. And like, actually, I'd never even seen one in real life. I'd learned about them, so I was really excited.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. On the level 3, when I got qualified level 3, I'd been sucked into lettings, never really had an experience. So it was like a baptism of fire for about 3 years before I did my level 3. So I had the book, and I'm quite relaxed and I thought, I'm not going to stress. I was learning everything in that book. So I was like, I'm just going to take the course and see how I got on. And I managed to pass it all. I don't know how, but I managed to pass it all. And then someone else I knew in the company was doing it at the same time. So well qualified before me, was memorising every single page. And we got into it. Then sadly, she didn't pass her first one. Although she should have, but she just overthought it. And I felt so guilty at the time. I was thinking, like, I just blagged myself for level 3. Obviously, I knew the knowledge, because you still had to pass it. It's still you're still in that driving test then to style setup. But I always look back and I was thinking, like, I came out of there, I was like, I passed, and then I felt I feel really guilty now. Like, you should actually be the one that passing. I should be the one failing.
It's a feel like when you do your driving test and you read the questions and you sometimes like overthink them.
Yeah,
that's what I loved about the level 4, is that there's no way of them tricking you, because it's written answers. They're not clicky boxes, or they weren't then. You had to write essays for the answers. So for me, I would literally go, well, if I read the question this way, but if I read it this way, I thought, you cannot catch me out.
Although, saying that, I've just done a level 7 in coaching and mentoring in organisations. So how do you deliver in strategic organisations? Halfway through the course, they said you can't write in this particular way now because of AI. You are literally now to write it into first hand, because it was a part of the Chartered Management Institute.
Okay.
Plagiarism has happened so much that people are basically hacking what they need from the exam, writing it in a different style, and they've now changed it to here's a theory, but also try and apply where you would apply that into your business, your organisation you're working with. So everything was I and we and a business.
That's good though, because like I did a leadership and management qualification with the Chartered Management Institute, and I was just sat with both you saying, God, having AI would be so good for this as well.
I'll say through it. Like, no, you can't do that.
It was such a time slug doing that. It was, but it was good. I mean, I'm glad I did it, but it was a lot.
And so the last question, I hope you don't mind asking this. So I've someone who's gone through a lot of change fitness wise. I've got a big passion towards a lot of the business owners I speak to, and the people in leadership positions, and the people trying to stretch themselves. I always try and encourage them to do some form of not just extreme fitness, but some sort of mental resilience changes in their life, so that they stretch that and then enable them to stretch further beliefs beyond their business capabilities. So like in the last sort of few years, I've been sort of quite a proud person to talk to you about certain things and get involved and be your absolute champion. So like you've gone through a change of like fitness, and you've done very, very well. And I want to applaud you for you've just done boot camp. You're like, pretty much every time I see you on social media, you're at some boot camp or running it at 6 o'clock, wherever it is. How has that affected you? Like if you don't mind asking, like you got into why did you take that step to change, and how has that helped you in your career and your mindset going forward? Like, if it's okay to just...
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been quite vocal about the fact I went through some really bad mental health, like since I probably became a parent, like went through all the hormone changes, like my mental health just tanked. And a few years back, I went through some really, really, really dark stuff. Like, and something that I've never talked about publicly is that it got so bad that I triggered all the safeguarding. So like my therapist started contacting my GP saying she's going to kill herself. It was really severe. And when I got the phone call from my GP to say, basically, we're concerned, we've had your safeguarding triggered, we need to speak to you, I was like, man, this has got so severe, I need to make some changes. So that was sort of sat there on one side. And then, and he's really, really open about it. There's a lovely chap called Mike Holden, who was the NEA, so the sales president. I think he was the year before last. And during his presidency, he had a major heart attack and almost died because he was, unhealthy. He wasn't looking after himself. His stress was through the roof. And it's an absolute miracle that he survived, and he reset his life and basically did a big piece to us as the ARLA lot and the NEA lot to basically be like, our jobs are so stressful, but you have to look after yourself. So there was that also there. And so we all started like taking our blood pressure, and my blood pressure was actually pretty good, but I started to get like really worried about not being here for Dex. And then obviously the thought of doing this presidency year with no energy, like bouncing from conference to conference, meetings to meetings. So I made the decision that I wanted to do something. And I turned around to one of my friends, David Mintz, and I said to him, I want to lose 2 stone. And we always laugh about this because he turned around and went, what are you going to do? Chop off your arm? And I was like, stubborn Megan went, you watch. I was like, I'm going to do that and more. And so he now says that he's now my motivational coach because he, spurred it on. So we're now 7 stone in.
Phenomenal.
So I started off by reducing my food and then added water. So basically I reread Atomic Habits. It was all about habit stacking. And I thought, this is where I've gone wrong. I normally just throw myself at it and then it just fails after a month. So I started with food and then I added water and then steps. And I lost about 4 stone before I started exercising because I wasn't ready to integrate that. And then when I was between jobs working out what I wanted to do, my mental health was pretty shit.
Yeah.
And so I thought, do you know what? Maybe I should get out and do something. So I tried to do the couch 5K, but my knees wouldn't hack it because it was still really heavy.
Yeah.
It was just too much on my knees, and I was really uncomfortable. So I went to boot camp, and I just went from there. And I started off with little 3 kilogram weights, and slowly got the bug for it. But I could only manage it once a week for a while because obviously physically it's very demanding, and I didn't do anything. I didn't half-ass it. I went straight into the deep end. And then, slowly integrated it more and more. So now we're on a 4-day a week and then sort of run in the middle of that now.
Amazing.
So now, and as of this week, I'm now training for a marathon.
Well done.
Well,
and a marathon.
Yeah, well, I say well done. I haven't started it yet.
And everyone has a marathon inside them.
I've always wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Always. It's been a dream. And I actually got ballot placed twice previously and didn't do it.
Wow. That's like a win the lottery.
I know. I don't think I would appreciate it. So I knew it was something I had to do. Yeah. But the first time was my mum died, so that was a good excuse. And then the second time was I had hip surgery, so I just physically couldn't do it either way. So it's been.
It's amazing because you've a lot of people who I've seen go in to try and get into fitness. Just go too much all in, and then 2 weeks later, or 3 weeks later, or 4 weeks later, they're just like, oh fuck this shit. And you've done it in a structured way, but it's a discipline and a commitment to yourself.
Yeah.
So, how is the reason why I wanted to ask you is how's that affected you in your roles and stuff like that? How do you what changes has that made in how you approach a meeting, sitting on stage last week?
Yeah.
Your mental well-being, taking on stress, different jumping in roles and stuff like that. What have you found in that new self?
I think I found definitely got a new confidence in myself because I feel like I really have shown myself that I can do really hard things.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. For my stress, I can't. Yeah, best stress buster that you could go to the point that now I'm really miserable if I don't get to do boot camp. I always thought that was a really weird thing that people would say, and now I totally get it. I threw a massive hissy fit last week because our boiler broke and I couldn't wash my hair, so I was like, well, I can't boot camp because I've got work tomorrow. And it was like you punched me.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, it's massively changed my mindset on things. But it's just given me more energy.
Yeah.
So I am somebody that is I've got ADHD and suspected autism. I don't think that's surprising for people. Someone said to me, they're like, well, yeah, you physically couldn't have done all the things you did, which you didn't. It would have been impossible. I think it's a superpower.
Yeah.
And for me, it's definitely helped control it.
Yeah.
Because it rests my mind, it rests my body, it keeps me at a permanent sort of reduced level of energy, which is really good. I know this is going to sound super cheesy, but it helped me remember who I am, not the girl that goes on podcasts, not Lettings in a Nutshell, not that. And actually, I massively reduced my social media off the back of that because it's been really nice to sort of almost find that again.
Yeah, 100%. No, it does. I 100% get it because I think when you're in a boot camp, you're surrounded by other people. It's still you versus you, and I think sometimes in a world where social media, dopamine, hits that try and come from some the sort of best habits of trying to get those hits, those good feel factors, I'll say, we tend to lose ourselves. And like, I was only speaking to someone. I've got a passion towards ADHD and leadership, and I was only chatting to someone last week, and she was talking about it. She said, "I think someone's got an ADHD." I was like, "Yeah, I think you are right on it." And one of the questions that she's always struggled, and I said to her, is like, how far do you feel you need to strip back the layers before you actually find yourself that is the non-masked version that you want the world to see? And she was like, "Fucking hell, Rob, that's like well deep."
That is
And
deep.
but she's now gone off on this world of trying to find that. So no different than fitness. Fitness strips you all the way back, you versus you, and then you rebuild yourself from there.
Yeah, I agree. I think as well, like, for me, I always wanted to be a fitnessy person. Like, I did, but I just never felt I could be. Like, I didn't feel like I had the right body and the right fit. And do you know what? Like, I've been going to boot camp now for what's that, like 9 months, and I'm still the slowest. I still reckon I'm probably on one of the lowest in terms of weights, because we're all like super fit.
Yeah.
They like run marathons at like stupid times, like you. But I love it because, like, as I run past them and they're like sprinting, and I'm like, they're like, "Good job, Meg, like, you're doing great." And it's like, it's such a lovely community as well of people. And one thing I feel really lucky about since doing this is the people I've met.
Yeah.
Like, it's opened part of our industry I didn't even know. Like, now I'm being invited to like 5Ks in the morning on a conference rather than out for beers the night before. It's like a totally different.
Yeah, different. Yeah, I saw that last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
People tagging me, and I was like, I couldn't make it, but I was like, "How far are we going? Do you want to lead it?"
It was just when they went, yeah, we're going to go slow. I was like, "Yeah, but what's your time?"
Yeah, what's slow?
And they were like, "What's slow for you?" I was like, "Because I'm quite new to this running thing." And then they told me, I was like, "Yeah, I'm just going to go to the gym. Good luck. Have fun."
I'm going to go for a walk instead.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you very much for coming on. Like, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I just want to say, like, a week's time, I hope you smash the year ahead.
Thank you.
And sort of deliver what you look to achieve. And I look forward to, again, cheering from the sidelines.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Just want to say thanks for coming on.
Thanks for your support. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to this Estate Agency X podcast. Can you make sure that you're actually subscribed to this podcast channel if you liked the content? It helps us massively to get better guests, and it just helps us generally. So you might think you're subscribed, but just have a double check, whatever your podcast platform of preference is, that you're actually subscribed, and then that way we can continue to grow the channel and get better and better guests for you.